Hello guys and welcome to another Couchisode. Today we will be talking about Bubble Butts
We're going to slay dragons and werewolves.
and some other random stuff. Stick around, we'll be right back. Welcome back guys, and we're going to get straight on to our first game. Blade, please take it away.
I will take it away to a far, far away time in 1991 to a very special system we all loved, which is the arcades.
Okay. Well, not everybody loved the arcades because not everybody had money to play on them, but yes, I get the point. Go.
You get the idea. So let's start by remembering a Capcom game called The King of Dragons. Have you played this one?
I do have a slight, resemblance. Well, not resemblance, but I do remember that game being something like, similar somehow to Golden Axe. Like, side-scroller beat-em-ups and stuff like that.
This was a slightly different side-scrolling beat-em-up because it had heavy elements of RPG games, because you kept leveling your characters along the game, and your attributes would actually get better along as you played the game. It had a couple of levels, I think it was 16, if I'm not mistaken, or 12. It was around that. There were quite a few levels on this game, and you had 5 characters to choose from. You had a fighter, a magician, a cleric, a dwarf, and an archer. And they all played completely different, which was quite fun because you could actually have different play styles, and you could play with friends, and you could actually play this with 3 people in the arcades. There was also an SNES version you could play at home with your friends, but you could only play with one friend. And this didn't actually make the game that much fun. When you played with friends in the arcade, you could actually have one play with a cleric and support you and actually heal in this game.
So like the let's say the beginning of or as you said, like RPG elements, I listened to that and I remember World of Warcraft, like tanks, healers, and
Kinda.
mages and stuff like that. Okay. Go on.
Kinda like that, yeah. But very, very basic. You only had 2 attacks. You had the standard attack, and you had the defense attack, or the jump attack, or whatever it was. You had 2 buttons in this game.
Okay.
But it was quite fun. It was simple. But that little difference to all the other games on this style made it completely distinct from the others, because you would actually be playing with your friends, leveling up during the gameplay, and you can actually take advantage of each of the characters differently. Because if you played with the archer, don't even think about getting close to the enemies, you'll be squished.
Yeah, I don't really remember much of the game. I mean, I do remember seeing it on the arcades, but honestly speaking,
so much fun.
It's not a game that I probably have played that much. I mean, especially if there was no PC releases, because as you know, I'm the PC guy, so yeah,
I know.
Definitely, that was my.
Now you could only play this on the arcades or the SNES, but like I said, the SNES version was limited to 2 players. It was not that much fun. The game was still good, but not the same thing. Playing it with 2 people in an arcade was the creme de la creme to play this game. It was awesome.
I guess that's
really
the real. I get that's the real fun of the game, is the fact that you have supporting or you have classes that can support each other.
Yeah.
So that makes the experience all the better, anyways.
Yeah,
but
it's completely different from all the rest. And it was really fun.
I'll have to check that on an emulator, see if I can just give it a go and see.
Yeah, just try it out.
Eventually,
really
something that I would like. So.
Yeah.
Good game, GG. Let's move on to the next one. And I was so eager to talk about this game because I mean, once again, it's one of those Amiga classics that I really, really love. And so just without further ado, I'm going to talk about Wolfchild from 1992 for the Amiga and Atari ST, and this was developed and published by Core Design. So I've mentioned this game on our last episode, and I was really itching talking about it because it's one of my favorites, and it's a Pixel thing already did a review on this game in around 6 years ago, and it's a much more in-depth review. So the link should be popping up up here somewhere right now, and you guys can check it out. It's a more in-depth one that goes into the details of making the game and so on, but. This was one of those games that I enjoyed so much on the Amiga, ultimately because of what I am a sucker for, which is soundtracks. And as mentioned previously on the previous episode, the music here, or it was the great work of Martin Iveson, which makes it quite understandable on why he has such a renowned status on the Amiga and the Atari community. So. I even remember, wiggling my butt on the chair while playing this because the music was so damn good that, it's just blissful, just very blissful. To top it off, the developer of this game was no other than Simon Phipps, that was very known for creating many classics like Bub and Sticks. We talked about it on the 16th Couchisode. The first 5 games of Harry Potter series, and also the one and only Rick Dangerous, also mentioned on our 26th episode of Amigos dos Fá in Portuguese. So the links will be showing up here. And I mean, if you actually understand Portuguese, you can actually drop by and listen to this one or watch this episode. In the plot of Wolfchild, we take the role of Saul Morrow that tries to rescue his father, Carl Morrow, from the evil Chimera organization. Carl was a biotechnology researcher that, in one of his inventions, he crafted a device that would turn a person into a human-wolf hybrid. So, it was quite an interesting plot to have, and I really found the transformation between one and the other was really going to have an impact on the game, but we'll get through that in a while. So gameplay wise, we have to go through 5 very long levels where we have to get to platforms working to advance and fight some of the biggest and ugliest Chimera Corporation minions. So initially in our human form, where you can use melee attack to damage the enemies, but while collecting power-ups during the game, when our energy reaches max level, we are transformed into this Wolfchild, and we are able to strike ranged attacks of several sorts, and then we get power-ups and upgrades, and we can actually change those attacks also. All the levels have different teams and are remarkably designed. The first one is inside a spaceship. Second one is kind of like a forest team. The third one seems to be kind of like catacomb or a temple, and all until reaching the Chimera laboratory, where we have to defeat final boss and rescue our father, Cal Morrow. Despite being released for several platforms, such as the Master System, the Genesis, Mega Drive, Game Gear, Sega CD, whatever, the best version of this game, and this was one of the things that Pixel also mentioned, was that it's the Super Nintendo one that seems to be the best one that was achieved on this console. So, talking about this game is just, it brings me so much good memories, especially of the afternoons on the weekends that I would spend on my cousin's house playing on his Amiga. And this was absolutely beautiful. The game, the soundtrack, I remember the introduction being very, very nice. I mean, he was in front of some screens, and then the guy, with his long blonde hair and stuff like that, then he presses a button and you see the modifications of the wolf hybrid that he was going to become to. Man, I mean, just the intro and the soundtrack of this game is just so absolutely amazing. I have really, really good memories of it, and I couldn't let it go another day without talking about it. So
I've never played this one. It looks pretty cool though.
You have an Amiga now, so try it because it's really, really worth it. You're gonna like it. It's a platformer.
It looks good.
It's a platformer, but it's a really, really well designed one with a lot of variety of enemies. The scenarios are brutal. Every single level have different obstacles that you have to go through, all of them different. So high-paced game, very fast. I mean, there's only good reasons to play this game, and in my opinion, I think it aged really well, and you can still play it today and have a lot of fun. So that's my view on Wolfchild.
Looks really awesome.
Give it a go. Yeah. All right. So what do you have for us today now?
Well, let's stick to the arcades, shall we?
I'm getting bored of arcades, but go ahead.
Don't just get a few coins. You won't get bored.
Yeah, right. Coins.
So let's go a few years forward I talked about the game from 91. It's traveled right to 1996 and traveled through again. I loved the first one. I really enjoyed the second one. That wasn't actually the second one, but the third one is fabulous. And it's actually not the third one, it's the fifth. So, what game am I going to talk about? Bubble Memories, the story of Bubble Bubble 3. That's actually Bubble Bubble 5.
Wow,
Weird, isn't it?
that's kind of confusing, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because Rainbow Islands was the game that we talked about already, was actually Bubble Bubble 2. It was the story of Bubble Bubble 2. And you have Bubble Memories, that is actually, well,
So I guess
just,
that the Bubble Bubble series has more fiction,
they
not
have a
fictional,
naming
but
issue.
side
They seriously have a
stories
naming
and non-canonical releases.
Oh, yeah.
That this is probably bigger than the Star Wars universe, I guess.
No, I know. The funny thing is if I remember right, Bubble Memories is actually the story before the first Bubble Bubble, if I'm not mistaken. And the game was very different from the first one. You had Bub and Bob, and you went to rescue their girlfriends as dragons. See the similarities there? It's exactly the same thing.
I do. Yes, definitely.
Completely different. No, but it was fun because the graphics and the animation style progressed a lot since the first Bubble Bubble. The game looked gorgeous. It still does today. And it had something very fun, and it was basically the only different element you had to this game, to the first one. In the first one you had the dragons, you spit the little bubbles, and you caught the enemies and you burst the bubbles, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do exactly the same thing in this one, but you have something to make it very special. You have giant enemies you have to catch with giant bubbles that you create by just holding the fire button for a bit. And you start glowing, and then you spit a giant bubble to catch these giant enemies. Or you can throw this giant bubble and catch a large group of smaller enemies. This actually made a lot of difference in the game. It was a lot of fun. And
it always involves bubbles.
Yeah, bubbles and bursting bubbles.
All right. I get the point. I get the point.
No, but it was quite fun, and it had different bosses. The game was really enjoyable. Primarily if you were playing with a friend. It was really fun with two people playing this game. And you had 80 levels to have fun with this game if you had a lot of coins. Because this game was not easy. It definitely was not easy. And I only remember seeing this one in the arcades. I have an idea that it actually came out for the PlayStation 2 in Japan in a Taito compilation, but I think this is the only place the game traveled to outside the arcades, and it was quite awesome. I can't understand why, really I can't understand why they didn't release this as a standalone game for other platforms. This is really awesome. This would have sold quite well.
Is there any game that is not awesome for you? Like, do we get to talk about
there are some games that aren't awesome at all. They are.
Seems to be quite a recurring mention from you that every game, but the game was awesome. You always.
I enjoy them a lot.
No, that's
you
fine.
Cannot enjoy.
Yes.
And you cannot enjoy is an operating system called Windows Millennium. If you don't know what this is, guys, just don't look for it. Forget it.
You know what? I had an opinion for many years, but recently, and I think this was a big YouTuber, one of those that really focus on retro stuff. I'm not gonna say who it was because I really can't remember. But recently I saw a video on it about how thinking forward Windows Millennium Edition was. I mean the thing wasn't perfect at all because it's not that it was just a terrible operating system by design. It's just that we had much better, and that didn't even reach its goal. I mean, especially if we're talking about 98 second edition, or even Windows 2000. I was a Windows 2000 user for a long time. A long time. I did the transition from Windows 98 SC to Windows 2000, and then from 2000 I went to XP when it came out. So that was my transition here. But again, that's
I had Windows Millennium for 8 hours, and I gave up.
I did try it out a couple of times. I had it installed. I didn't like it and installed it. Then later on, I gave it another try, and then I said, okay, no, this is really not what I want. So I'll
You're a
put it
brave
aside.
soul. You know, the actual Millennium bug was Windows Millennium.
Oh, yeah, that's another story that, nothing really happened with the Millennium bug. I mean, aside
yeah.
of some hiccups anyways.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to get going because before closing it off, I have a very, very good game that I have a lot to talk about. So I'm going to try to do
grab
this.
some popcorn. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Grab the popcorn, be right back because this one is going to be...
Let's do this.
So let's kick it off. The game I'm going to be talking about is Ecstatica. It's from 1994. It's for PC MS-DOS, and it was developed by Andrew Spencer Studios and Cyanosis.
So you let me talk about the Bubble game, and then you're going to talk about Bubbly tunes.
Bubbly tunes with bubble butts and bubble other parts of the body.
Everything's bubbly in that game.
We're going to talk about
Awesome
that
game.
anyways. So this game for me is the origins of the survival horror, along with Alone in the Dark, that is actually from the same year. Yeah. And it's dark, it's scary, and it really has some twisted humor on it. You will see along the game anyways. The plot is kind of predictable. So the place is Northern Europe, and the date is somewhere in the year 928, so even before the 1000s. A traveler, which is the player, and you can either choose between a man or a woman, comes to a town named Tirich, or however you want to call it, for food and shelter, but gets surprised by an invasion of demons that is currently happening on that town. The traveler will have to help the villagers fight off these demons, or most of the times run away from them, while completing quests for them, for the whole village people and so on. The village people. That was a good one. I remember, for example, the first mission, or the first thing I faced as soon as you start the game. There's a little girl that lost her teddy bear, and you have to find it for her. Only seconds later to be surprised by a blue mini dragon that will chase you and kill you. And all along this game, I've noticed that the best path is not actually fighting them, at least when you get some weapons and armor, but just, run away from them all along. Either way, the final goal is to free the sorceress Ecstatica of her curse, and thus ending the demonic invasion on this village. Now, one of the most particular details that people would notice on this game, and as we just, talked about, was that the characters were shaped a little bit differently. This was the mid-90s, and the presence of 3D accelerated graphics was already a thing, but, it wasn't for everyone's pocket. So, most of the people would still be running 2D graphics cards at this point, just like I was in my 386. Thus, the developer of this game, Andrew Spencer, spent 1 year just to develop the game engine alone, and to take every single ounce of performance of a 2D card out of it. So this was a very clever machination of this graphical engine that he used, that it would still be usable on low-end computers. In fact, the clever design was so effective that this would run on a 386 25 megahertz CPU with 4 megabytes of RAM and 1 megabytes graphics card. Okay, not 1 gigabyte, megabyte for the young kids out there. It's it's a lot less. So what was different in here, you might ask? Well, the polygonal graphics were a thing in this era. I mean, if you look at, Alone in the Dark, you would see that there was a lot of polygonal graphics back then. And this was, games like Virtua Fighter also lead on it and so on. So Spencer actually took another approach and designed all the character models in ellipsoids. Now, ellipsoids, that's exactly what it means. Instead of flat polygons, you have elliptic shapes, and this means that our character and many other assets in the game actually literally have bubble butts. I'm not joking. Look at the ass of any character there. I mean, at least the humans. I'm sorry. And it's a bubble. It's two balls. Like, it's an interesting place to have the balls anyways, but that's not the point. So one of the things I remember fondly on this game is that, and this is about the gameplay now, is that I literally had no idea what to do. And that this was one of the biggest criticisms that the game had. There are no clues, no minimap telling you go here, and the only thing you get is clues from the dialogues that you have with the several characters, such as the little girl that I mentioned earlier, that despite seeing a dragon in front of her, she keeps singing la 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 la. Yeah. And then there's a priest on top of the tower that is scared, and you cannot occupy the same space that he's in. So if you approach him, he moves to another place. I mean, the game itself was really weird. I mean, again, there is no inventory, so you have to praise the developer for the realism here. There is no inventory.
Something in each hand,
You have
right?
exactly. You have two hands, so
Yeah.
you hold two objects. Like, come on, it's not like Monkey Island that you can put a whole piano in your backpack, right? I mean, it wasn't a whole piano, but it was something like this.
Yeah, but it was a large backpack, so...
Sure, like his jacket when he gets tipped over the bridge and loses everything.
His
Again,
jacket was exactly like the one you found in the TV series Parker Lewis. Remember
or
that
the
jacket?
one from Discworld, the
yeah.
wizard from Discworld. He also had a
Exactly.
big jacket, anyways. There is no health bar, both for yourself or the enemy, so you have no idea how much HP you have left. If you see your character limping, well, that means you're in bad shape. But that's only it. You get like visual clues about the health status of these of the enemies and yourself, but you don't get a health bar. And it gets worse on the first few minutes of the game. The village is an absolute maze. Kind of like a little bit like Alone in the Dark, right? You were just going back and forth. And even before you get a weapon, you have a spider trying to bite you, a werewolf that is on the loose that just bounces you and hits you, and you have a giant bear on a house that is, somehow eating or drinking, and when you go away from the house, you hear him burping all the time. So, I mean, what on earth is this? This is the weirdest stuff I've ever seen as a young kid on a game. Eventually
It
the
was
story...
fun.
I mean, it was, but eventually the story unfolds by itself, and after a few walks around, dodging enemies, you will understand that what you have to do and how to progress to the game. Just to not get too long here and to wrap it up, the game itself has a camera system that remembers us of the early Resident Evil games. So those were fixed angles; you could not really change them. And due to that, the playability is not great. I mean, there's places where you fall off a ledge because you are not really hugging the wall as you should, because the camera doesn't really give you that perspective. There's a lot of objects that for example, the objects that you catch, you can't really look to them or analyze them. So sometimes you don't really know what you're actually catching or picking up. But yeah, these were the games that we had access to. We played what we had, and even if we didn't like it that much, it was either that or playing something else that we had already played. So again, for me, the positives about this is that if we compare it with more with games like Alone in the Dark and Resident Evil, where you had to solve a specific puzzle to advance in a specific part, this here was more open because you didn't have this sequence of puzzles to complete. You could complete quests that people would give you, and then eventually you would need to make sure that you would have armor and weapons to keep advancing and fight even harder enemies. The added difficulty was the fact that you had no idea what to do. So this would have to be a slow learning process because there's literally no tips. Again, this game is not available on any digital stores. My assumption, but this is just pure speculation, is that Psygnosis was actually acquired by Sony in 1994, and I don't see Sony having any interest of releasing this game and its sequel. There was actually an Ecstatica 2, which we might want to talk about later on, which was a little bit more, let's say, polished, and it was a little bit better. But again, this is in '94, Sony had already acquired, when this game came out, Sony had already acquired Psygnosis, and actually in 1999, I believe Psygnosis ceased completely to exist. Again, you can find it on dubious abandonware websites, and that's basically it. So
just ask Google.
Guys, just ask Google. So that was it. Sorry for taking so long on this last game, guys, but this was...
DJ, let's talk about the only important thing you mentioned in that game description.
The bubble butts?
No.
So
the
what?
village people. YMCA.
In the Navy, you can sail the 7 seas in the Navy. All right, let's not do the same thing like last episode. Because,
let's let people rest.
We had a senior moment there. Anyways,
we
guys,
have
we're almost 40. That's fine. I mean, that's it. So, guys, as you know, leave a like if you like, leave a dislike if you didn't like. Consider subscribing to the channel. Don't forget, we've been asking this for a while. a lot of you that are watching these videos are not subscribed. We really, really would appreciate if you could subscribe to us. It's going to help us bring you new content. It's going to help us, feeling motivated for the fight to keep bringing you new content, and maybe, planning some other new things in the future. Hopefully, who knows, maybe something is being hatched, but we're not going to reveal so much right now. And this is only for the tough people that stay until the end of our episode. So,
and
guys,
no more bubble butts.
Give us a shout out down there on the comments. What would you like to see new here? So we're going to see if people actually reach the end of the episodes and if they hear or listen to this question. So guys, let us know what you'd like to see here more on the channel, besides us talking about, these, old and moldy games that we do all the time, and having, senile moments and, singing Village People and stuff like that. So guys, again, as you already know, thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see each other next week. Game on, guys.
Don't forget, guys, YMCA. Game on. See you next week.
Jesus Christ.